If you're able to do these 4 things consistently, you will lose fat effortlessly. Fat loss is simple, and fat loss can be easy. A lot of what I see online is overcomplicating how simple fat loss really is. It's not complicated at all. In fact, I'm convinced that we know it's not complicated, but the reason we complicate it is because it's an uncomfortable thing to go through. That being said, fat loss can be easy. You can make it really hard for yourself, or you can make it effortless. It's up to you, and it depends on what strategies you choose and what tools you choose to use for your fat loss journey. What I'm gonna share with you today is a very simple strategy I like to use when I want to lean out, when I want to lose weight and body fat. Fat loss comes down to calories in, calories out. That is it. It's a game of energy balance. You want to consume less energy than you're expending, or you want to expend more energy than you are consuming. However, which way you want to look at it. The approach I like to take is called the high energy flux approach to fat loss. Research has shown that this approach to fat loss is the most successful when it comes to sustainability. Diet success should be defined by your ability to keep off the weight, not your ability to lose the weight. Your ability to lose the weight should be a given. You obviously should be losing weight if you are dieting. If you are not, then, we will address that. But I would call a diet successful if the person is actually able to keep off the weight, because that means they were given the tools and they were given strategies that they can use forever to sustain the weight loss. Back to a high energy flux approach to fat loss. What is that? So we're gonna have 2 people, person A and person B. Person A and person B are the same person. They weigh the same. Let's say they weigh 180 pounds. They're the same height. They do everything the same except for their approach to fat loss. So their BMR is the same, and this is very important to note. Person A takes a low energy flux approach to fat loss, which for some reason is the most popularized approach. So person A wants to lose weight. Let's call this person Giselle. If you know, you know. Giselle wants to lose 20 pounds, and so she takes a low energy flux approach because that's what everyone tells her to do. They don't call it a low energy flux approach, but they tell her that she needs to diet down, and in order to lose weight, she has to enter into a calorie deficit, and the best way to enter into a calorie deficit is to diet and to focus on the calories you are consuming. So let's say she burns 2,000 calories a day to make it easy. So instead of increasing her activity or anything like that, she focuses on eating less. So she starts by eating 500 calories less. She's eating 1,500 calories a day. As she starts to lose weight, she has to slowly lower that. So she ends up eating 1,400 calories a day, and then 1,300 calories a day. She has to continue eating less and less as she loses weight because she wants to lose a large amount of weight. Let's move on over to person B, who is also Giselle, and let's call her Giselle B. So Giselle B watched Bree's video and is taking a high energy flux approach to fat loss. So what she does is she increases her activity by 400 calories, and then she decreases the food she's consuming by 100 calories. So she's able to eat 1,900 calories and still lose a pound of fat per week. That's assuming you're eating in a 500 calorie deficit per day, and we know 3,500 calories equals a pound of fat. Which version of Giselle would you rather be? Would you rather be the Giselle that has to eat 1,500 calories and then lessen that drastically over time because you want to continue losing weight? Or would you rather be this version of Giselle who's able to eat more and she's able to benefit from the metabolic adaptations of moving more as well, right? So it's not just about your ability to eat more calories, it's about the adaptations your body undergoes because you are moving your body more. So the takeaway from this is you want to take a high energy flux approach to fat loss. Like I said, you get to eat more food, and who doesn't want to be able to eat a little bit more while in a cut? But you also get the physiological benefits of moving your body, of walking more, of doing more activity. So my fat loss strategy is based off of that principle. I'll also link a really interesting study speaking about this in length below so you can go through it yourself. My philosophy on fat loss is to make it sustainable, and it's to keep it simple. There's no reason to overcomplicate something that's simple, because all it does is make people feel ostracized from the process in the first place. That's why people don't even make the goal of losing weight, because they just don't even think it's possible for themselves, because they believe they have to do something incredibly unsustainable to achieve their goals. And you don't have to do anything unsustainable. You don't have to do anything complicated. My fat loss approach is based off of 4 principles. The first is walking. The second is fasting. The third is a high protein diet. And the 4th is strength training. If you're able to do these 4 things consistently, you will lose fat effortlessly. Let's start with walking. Since your goal is fat loss, you want to have your steps on the higher end. So if you've been unable to reach 10,000 steps per day consistently, aim for that. If your goal is to get pretty lean, and when I say pretty lean, I mean you're able to see some sort of ab definition, I would aim for 15,000 steps per day. That's an average. So if some days you're lower than that or and above that, that's fine. It should just average to about 15,000 steps per day by the end of the week. And I actually think that's a very accessible way to look at steps. I know it can seem kind of daunting thinking like, I have to get 15,000 steps today. It's like, you just need to average that through the course of the week. The reason walking is key in my approach and in my strategy is because it's a very low impact activity and it's very accessible. If you are able-bodied, you can walk. You don't need any special gear to do it. You can just hop outside and go for a walk. Now you can even order a very affordable walking pad and do it in your house. Walking is accessible, and for the most part, it's easy. It's just the time spent doing it. So if time is an issue for you, right? If you have these time constraints, what you can do is start taking walking meetings, walking to your errands, or like I said, even purchase a walking pad if that's something that you're able to do. Beyond that, in terms of fat loss, the reason walking is so valuable is because you don't have to worry about it spiking your hunger. I like to run, but the downside of running a lot, which at one point I was running a lot, is that it spikes your hunger. It blunts it initially. For the first few hours after running, it blunts your hunger, but later on in the evening, later in the day, your hunger just goes through the roof. Walking doesn't do that. If you ran 10 miles versus if you walked 10 miles, your hunger levels would be completely different walking the 10 miles. You're not gonna get that same hormonal response you will if you were to run that 10 miles. So walking honestly just feels like a cheat code. The second principle, the second pillar is fasting. I want to preface this by saying fasting isn't magic. There's nothing magic about it. The reason I like fasting or time restrictive eating or intermittent fasting, whatever you want to call it, skipping breakfast, I really don't care, is that it makes cutting your calories very approachable. I personally am not a big proponent of the weighing and tracking the food because it's not sustainable for most people.
Then ketchup, then mustard, then pickles? No, that's not right!
I've had a few clients in the past who it works for them, but 90% of my clients have no interest in doing that for every single meal. It takes a certain type of person who's truly willing to do that for the foreseeable future. And if I'm being honest, that's something that was popularized by the bodybuilding community, and I don't work with any bodybuilders. Fasting, on the other hand, is very, very simple and approachable. On that note, I would like to clarify what fasting looks like if you are using it as a fat loss strategy. First, I'll say the protocol I suggest you start with is a 16-8 protocol. So you are going to fast for 16 hours and have an eating window of 8 hours. For me, I stop eating by 8 p.m. and I have my first meal. I break my fast at 12 p.m. It's very doable. Now, like I said, the caveat to that is that you don't eat like an asshole for those 8 hours. There's no magic in fasting. So if this is a calorie game, if you're eating the 2,000 calories that you shouldn't be eating inside the window, it doesn't magically become 1,500 calories because you're eating it in an 8-hour window. That's not what happens. The assumption is that if you were eating in a regular, like 12-hour eating window, let's say, you would be eating 2,000 calories, but because you cut off 4 hours, maybe you're eating 1,600 calories or 1,800 calories. That is the assumption. What I suggest you do is audit how you eat. For the next 2 days, write down the times you eat and what you eat. I don't really care about the amounts so much. When you decide what your eating window is, what your 8-hour eating window is, you're simply gonna line that beginning time up with what you have been eating, and you're gonna cut out all of that food. For example, let's say you're used to eating breakfast at 8 a.m. and then you eat lunch at 12 p.m. and then you eat dinner at 6 p.m. All you're gonna do when you have your eating window is you're essentially cutting out breakfast. Don't bring breakfast back in and have it at 12 and then move back your lunch and move back your dinner. You're no longer having that breakfast because that's cutting out the additional calories. The key is to cut out the calories. The fasting is a very simple way to do that. For me, I'm a huge late night snacker. So cutting off my eating window at 8 p.m. is a very simple way to tell myself like, well, you can't have that snack. You can't have those Cheetos or Doritos or candy.
Guys, I'm eating junk and watching rubbish. You better come out and stop me.
Because it's 8:15 p.m. and it's outside of your eating window. You understand what I'm saying? So it's more about the habits that eating window will instill in you rather than trying to game the system by like, well, I'm gonna fit in extra food into, no, don't do that. Like I said, don't eat like an asshole, eat sensibly within that window, and honestly, you should be eating around the same things, but you're cutting out the additional calories for whatever you are used to eating outside of that eating window. The third principle, the third pillar is strength training. Strength training is incredibly important for a plethora of health reasons, but in terms of fat loss, you want to ensure that you are burning fat and not muscle. And so I know, and I'll get to the protein, lately we've been obsessing over the protein, but we need to talk about muscle protein synthesis. Strength training is what promotes muscle protein synthesis. You need to break down the muscle first so that you can use the proteins to rebuild it. I suggest you strength train at least 3 days a week. A 3-day per week full body split is very, very doable and accessible. I'll link a full body workout you can do below. I filmed it a week ago. You don't need to spend more than 45 minutes in the gym as long as you are very intentional with your training and you're training intensely enough. The fourth and final principle pillar is to consume a high protein diet. Now, high protein doesn't mean just protein. I see some insane diets online and it's people just eating protein, carnivore. That doesn't make sense. Your body needs the fats hormonally and your body needs the carbs because that is your primary energy source. Eat carbs and eat fats. Like I said, high protein doesn't mean just protein. The numerical goal for protein is 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, or 1 gram per pound of goal body weight. Now, I know in your head you were like, what the fuck? How am I supposed to figure that out? Don't worry about it. Okay? You don't need to worry about it. You don't need to measure anything. You don't need to weigh anything. I'm going to tell you exactly how to eat in a very simple way. A simple way to ensure you're getting enough protein is to have at least a palm-sized amount of protein per meal. Your hand, your palm is relative to your body, to how tall and how big you are. Everyone has a hand, or most people have hand. If you have a hand, you can use that. And you are going to have 1 protein shake a day. I don't care, no excuses, blah, I don't like protein shakes, you're an adult, get over it. You're gonna have a protein shake every single day, at least 1 scoop. I do a double scoop. If you wanna be, extra careful, do a double scoop. Palm-sized amount of protein per meal. Super easy, super simple. You are going to hit your protein, don't worry. Your energy should be focused in the gym, protein for recovery. Now I want to do a little subcategory touching on diet again. Like I said, you need to be eating fats and carbs. You also need to be consuming your micronutrients. So eat a plethora of fruits and vegetables. Eat fruits and vegetables. I want you to take your greens powder and I want you to kick it out of your house and I want you to throw it out because you are an adult and adults eat their vegetables. Eats. We don't drink vegetables. Okay? 2025, we are not drinking vegetables.
Eat your vegetables!
Get rid of the greens powder, eat vegetables. Not only are you going to get the fiber that you're likely missing from those greens powders, but you're also going to get the feeling of fullness that you so badly want when you are in a calorie deficit. Because guess what? You are going to feel hungry sometimes because your body is literally eating the fat because it's hungry. So you are going to experience some levels of hunger. You should not be starving, okay? So if you're starving, you're doing it wrong, but you will experience some levels of hunger and that is completely normal. But if you eat more fiber, if you're eating more fruits and veggies, if you're eating the high protein diet, you're gonna be in a pretty good spot. And make sure you're drinking enough water too. A lot of times we're not hungry, we're just thirsty. I've realized this recently when I did a challenge because I had to drink a gallon of water a day and I'm like, a lot of times I'm just thirsty. That's it. That's my simple approach to fat loss. And you will do that until you reach your goals. Depending on your goals, you can adjust these things. So you can walk a little bit more or you can walk a little bit less. You can have a bigger eating window or a smaller eating window. That is completely up to you and your goals, like I said. So this is very accessible. Take what works, leave what doesn't. That's completely fine. But this strategy has literally never failed me. Anytime I want to get diced, anytime I want to get lean, this works for me. I don't feel like my life has to revolve around fat loss or my approach. I don't have to bring my scale with me to the restaurant. I don't have to do any of that. I stick to these 4 principles, these 4 pillars, and I'm Gucci. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or what type of video you would like to see next. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next time. Holla!